Police are searching for a mother accused of killing her 8-month-old son. Investigators say she put him into scalding bathwater after allegedly becoming frustrated that he soiled his diaper. The baby, who you can see right here, his name is Courtlyn Cleamons. He suffered burns and injuries and later died. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kennedi Walker, and I'll walk you through the details. You're watching Law&Crime. Hooks police releasing this smiley photo of Jatoria Cleamons. The 21-year-old Texas mother is now wanted on charges of injury to a child and manslaughter in the death of her 8-month-old son, Courtlyn. Investigators say the infant suffered severe burns after Cleamons allegedly placed him in scalding bathwater. On February 4th, officers responded to a medical call and arrived to find emergency crews performing CPR on baby Courtlyn, but the infant did not survive. An autopsy later revealing Courtlyn died from thermal injuries. The manner of death was homicide, according to documents obtained by KSLA. That ruling sparked a homicide investigation. Hooks police worked alongside detectives at the Texarkana, Texas Police Department to question Cleamons, who, according to police, admitted she was frustrated after the child defecated in his diaper and gave him an extremely hot bath. Courtlyn died approximately 2 weeks later while Cleamons was staying with a relative in Hooks, Texas. Courtlyn is remembered as a baby who brought immense joy, love, and light to those who knew him, according to his obituary. Following his death, Cleamons posted several messages on Facebook expressing grief over her son's passing. In one post, she wrote, quote, "Rest in love, my baby. I love you so much and I miss you so much. My heart is so broken. I will always think about you. Rest in heaven, my love." Despite that, investigators now believe she played a direct role in his death. Warrants have been issued for Cleamons' arrest. Authorities are asking anyone with information on her whereabouts to call 911. At this time, it's still unclear why those warrants weren't issued sooner. And here to break down the story with me is Detective Aaron Benzik. Aaron, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks, Kennedy.
So let's just jump right in. When you hear about a case like this one, a mother accused of fatally burning her child, what immediately goes through your mind as a legal professional?
These cases, you have to spend a lot of time. You don't have something directly like gunshots or impact weapons or things like that. So you want to be really thorough on what are these injuries from? What is that cause of death of a baby? Is there some kind of other terminal illness going on? You want to really pay attention to those things. And, first of all, for any investigators working on these cases, these are the worst cases for investigators. Anytime a child is hurt, this child is innocent, they're defenseless, they're doing nothing wrong, they're being a normal child, and now they are, as the medical examiner rules, a victim of a homicide. And these are the most important critical cases we can work as an investigator, because our role as investigator now is to speak for that person and that child who can't speak anymore.
And the facts are just extremely disturbing. Do you think because of that, that's what makes this case so complex?
It does. It speaks to wanting to be thorough on this, wanting to do a good job, wanting to cover everything so that the person who is responsible for the death of this child has faces consequences, that there's justice for this child, and that person isn't allowed to harm anyone else.
And police say that the suspect admitted to bathing her son in scalding water. How does a statement like that factor into the case?
Well, you're speaking to your culpable mindsets now. This person's intentionally doing an act. Now, it's not an act that's going to directly knowingly cause the death. It's something more that's going to be reckless, something that you should know. Putting a baby in scalding water is going to cause serious bodily injury to that baby. And we kind of see that reflected in the charges that are levied. But having this act happen is just, how do we get to the point where we're taking a child and we're punishing them in a way where scalding water is in that equation? And it's just senseless to think about. But unfortunately, this is not that uncommon.
We've all heard that wrinkle creams are the secret to looking younger, but according to one Beverly Hills doctor, that might not be the whole story. Dr. John Lake, a renowned cosmetic surgeon and beauty expert, says that most wrinkle solutions on the market are just glorified moisturizers and that they don't always deliver the results they promise. In fact, some can even irritate your skin. But Dr. Lake did not stop there. He's been working on something new, an anti-aging breakthrough he calls the Age Renewer method. It's a simple at-home technique that he says can visibly reduce the signs of aging in under 2 minutes. Think of it like a mini makeover, almost like Photoshop for your face, but real. Curious? Well, Dr. Lake put together a short video showing you exactly how it works step by step, so you can try it yourself from home. The response has been huge. The video's already gotten over 7.2 million views, and the reviews are pouring in. Thousands of women saying they look noticeably younger. One even said, "Best results I've ever seen. I'll never stop using this." If you want to see what it's all about, just go to bhmd1.com/law or click the link in the description below. Again, that's bhmd1.com/law. Some viewers are wondering, and honestly, I am as well, why did it take months for police to issue an arrest warrant? I mean, you're a detective. If you could just walk us through, if someone just allegedly admits this to you, how would you go about it?
Right. So this is one of those, again, when any of these child investigations happen, you're wanting to be very thorough, very diligent, professional in your investigation. Well, you're obviously forming some very early opinions of what's going on. Opinions aren't what matters, those facts. And we have the circumstances, the facts show that we have a baby who the mom admits does take this 8-month-old and put her in scalding water, or put him in scalding water. But his death doesn't occur immediately. It's not like the baby's placed in scalding water and he dies that night, he dies the next morning. This is something where the baby dies 2 weeks later. And so what we're having to do is we're being very diligent in this. We're looking at things. We're going to be working in partnership with the medical examiner's office. And obviously they're going to see the scalding on the baby and they're going to know that these are legitimate concerns. But one of the other things they're going to want to do is we're going to look at, are there any other medical issues going on with this baby? Okay, the baby was placed in scalding water, but what if the baby had another terminal illness or another fatal issue going on medically that could cause complications in trying to say that this baby died from the scalding? So that's what I think kind of takes time. They're wanting to be very diligent. They're taking their time to go through this and understand all of the medical complexities that happen with this baby. There might be tests that they send off to specialists for that they want to learn more about, and just taking the time to get that whole picture of, all right, this baby was placed in scalding water. These causes directly caused the death of the baby, and there's no other extenuating circumstances going on. And once they confidently get to that point, then it leads directly back to the person who placed them in that scalding water. That's just the person responsible for the death of this 8-month-old.
Still, the timeline just seems a little iffy, in my opinion. I mean, the child died in February. Here we are in June. I mean, is there a chance that if she did confess, maybe she wasn't read her rights properly? Like, still, what would make it take months? Because you would think that if someone did allegedly confess, wouldn't you arrest them right away if they said, hey, I purposely did these things?
Well, a confession is going to be saying, I placed this baby in scalding water. But I don't think her confession is going to be, I placed this baby in scalding water to kill the baby. Okay, so they're confessing to an act that did cause injury, but we need to understand some more of those circumstances. And because, again, we're kind of speaking to that 2 weeks time frame before the baby's died. It speaks to the longevity of the investigation. And these circumstances, I don't know in this case, but it could be likely that they submitted the case to a grand jury to review. It may not be something that they got the arrest warrant directly, but had a grand jury involved. So that's going to add some time as well. Just kind of thinking outside the box on what some of these time delays could be. I don't think that it speaks to, hey, something was done improperly, they didn't get a correct confession, we have to redo all of these things. I think it speaks to having the medical component be something that can take a while to look at and understand completely. And, there's not a rush at this point. We have her admitting she did these acts, but what exactly caused the death and what other medical issues could be going on? Once we rule all that out, once we piece all that away, then they know that, okay, this act of placing the baby in scalding water, this is reckless. Someone should know that you placing a baby in a scalding water can lead to the death of another. And that's how they get to the manslaughter charge.
Do you think it's possible that investigators, I don't know, in situations like these, maybe we're waiting on more evidence, such as, any home inspections or anything with CPS? Like, how would they get involved? Because the mother does have other children.
So, not even just the incident that happened that day. They're going to be looking at, what is the backstory of this family? Are there any other existing records going on? What are our previous calls for service? Have we had any other circumstances going on with CPS? And they're going to want to get all of those records. They're going to want to review things. They're going to be talking to family members, other people inside the home. What are the circumstances? What are the types of punishment that would be put on kids? And then we're talking about potty training. The circumstances are indicating that the baby was placed in scalding water as a result of complications of her potty training. An 8-month-old is not being potty trained yet. We're not even in the right time frame for this to be something that we are severely or even punishing at all a baby for this. But unfortunately, this is not uncommon. When we start getting to child injuries from parents, potty training is a common theme that we see. It's something that comes up in a lot of these cases. And there's a level of frustration. If you're a parent, you've raised children, there is a level of frustration that occurs during these moments, but it's something that it's drawn out. You're working on it over a period of time, and you're certainly not harming your child because of any potty training circumstances. It's just not okay.
Right, especially at 8 months, right? Like that's just
Especially at 8 months, yeah.
right, crazy to even think about. Now, because we are dealing with, a months long delay, can the defense possibly use that delay to their advantage?
They could. They're going to be taking a look at what was law enforcement doing during that long delay. That's something we don't have insight into. We're speculating what all could they have been doing, what took so long. The defense isn't going to have to speculate. They're going to be getting all of those reports. They're going to be getting all of those things. And she stated that she placed the baby in scalding water. She hinted something. Well, there may be some more details to that, and there may be some things that they're going to want to look at and try to come up with some kind of defense. I think they're going to fall short and have a hard time because at the end of the day, we have an 8-month-old baby. A baby who's trying to be potty trained and shouldn't be anywhere close. And we have the cause of death is scalds to the body. And the mom's admitting that she was in control of the safety of the baby at that time.
Now, the mom posted online expressing grief. Could the defense argue that that shows remorse or even deny intent altogether?
I don't think it's going to help them very much in intent. Having remorse afterwards or having the fact that, oh my gosh, this now caused the death of my baby. I bet she was feeling remorseful and sad at that point. The problem is that she committed those acts and didn't feel any kind of concern in the moment and didn't have any kind of safeguards in her actions that would prevent the death of this baby, that a reasonable person would have not gotten to that point. A reasonable person would have understood the risk of this hot temperature. You don't use that to punish. And they would have taken steps that would have kept the baby out of hot temperature. A reasonable person putting their baby is going to be using the back of their hand, touching the water, getting a feel, hey, what's the temperature? Are we lukewarm? Because we don't want to hurt a child. We know that scalding water will hurt a child. I think what the defense could do is maybe during a punishment phase, they could certainly bring up those posts. They could certainly talk about her remorse, and maybe that affects punishment in some way. But at the end of the day, this 8-month-old child was defenseless. He needed his mom to keep him safe of all other people. He didn't need law enforcement or CPS to step in. He needed his mom, and his mom instead put him in scalding water, and that's not okay.
Do we think that the defense could possibly argue postpartum?
At 8 months, we're pretty far removed from that. There's some concerns of things, and that's where it's kind of that backstory. What is the victimology of this baby over the past 8 months? What have they gone through? What has mom gone through? But I think you have mom talking about circumstances where she was concerned, she had problems with potty training, and she took a conscious act. This is not someone who is just depressed out of their mind and not working well. This is someone who thought they were punishing a child intentionally. And I just don't think that there's many excuses we can give this person.
Right. Now, she is facing injury to a child and manslaughter, but some are asking, why not murder?
Sure. So for that murder charge, you're going to be looking at intent. You're going to be looking at intending to cause the death of an individual. And with the evidence they have right now with her statements, we don't have intending to cause the death. We have intending to punish and cause harm. That's going to be more reckless. And that's what manslaughter is. Manslaughter is acting in a reckless way that causes the death of another. And the recklessness component is that you should have known, a reasonable person would have known that this action would cause the death of someone else. And, take 99 out of 100 parents that's not this mom, let her be the 100th parent, then other 99 are all going to be testing that temperature of the water first. They're going to be making sure it's of a safe temperature for a baby to get into. And that's the reasonable standard. A reasonable person is going to be putting safeguards from that hot water. So we don't have intending to kill, but her actions were intending to put that baby in hot water, which is reckless and should have known. Manslaughter in Texas is a second-degree felony, punishable up to 2 to 20 years. We have injury to a child. which is also going to be a second-degree felony. So we have, both of those. They're two different components. They'll get arrest warrants. What they actually take to trial, what they actually use, that could look differently over the next months to years. But they have certainly the elements of injury to a child, someone under 14 years of age, causing injury to that child, serious bodily injury, and in this case, death, as well as the manslaughter charge. So they'll decide both one or the other, or what they want to take to trial moving forward. So definitely something to keep an eye on as trial goes along.
Right. And we just spoke a lot about intent, but is it harder to prove intent when you're dealing with someone's actions during a moment of frustration or anger, despite what that may be?
Right. And it's really her own words are helping us understand that. Without that, we're having to build up things of, what are comments that she made to family? What would she normally do? Different things like that. Could there be some kind of accident component involved into this baby being scalded? And we're able to cut through all that. Law enforcement is able to get to what the intent was because she tells them, I intended to put this baby into the tub. I had put this 8-month-old child, this son of mine, in scalding water. And she knew that it would hurt him because she described it as being punishment. And that is just tragic, just awful.
Absolutely. And we have, again, the medical examiner ruling it as a homicide caused by those thermal injuries. If we could just talk about how powerful that ruling may be in court, because a lot of times we see cases and maybe it doesn't really seem like an open and shut case, but would you consider this to be so, since we do have the autopsy, and just how could the defense challenge something like that?
Yeah, it's getting right to the point. The thermal injuries on the child caused the death. It's going to be a homicide. So what it does is law enforcement doesn't have to deal with an undetermined, medical examiners not sure if it's an accident or what. They just don't have enough evidence either way. In this case, they do have that evidence and information of what happened, and it leads to that clear-cut ruling. And that's how they're moving forward with criminal charges. Without that clear ruling of homicide, we're not going to be using the manslaughter charge. We might be looking at some other things, but we have that manslaughter charge and we have that homicide ruling from those thermal injuries. And I really think it speaks to the extent of how much this 8-month-old child suffered. And this is not something where this child was immediately deceased. This child suffered for 2 weeks because of those injuries. And scalding, burning injuries are some of the most traumatic injuries you can face. This is not okay. You can't scald your children. You can't put them in hot water to punish them. An 8-month-old baby should not be punished for potty training. These are adult failures. These are adult problems, and adults got to get this right. It's not fair to this child. So these follow-up offenses, the severity of them, manslaughter charge with homicide, they're exactly what this parent should be facing right now.
Absolutely. And just because of what we know, I mean, what's the chances that prosecutors could even upgrade the charges?
I don't think it very likely at this point because they have taken so much time in their investigation to work through that. And that could have been something that, they're working through it. Do they have enough evidence for murder? Can we support that? They might have gone back and forth with their attorney's office, the district attorney, and looking at things. So I think likely with the amount of time that they've had, they've covered all of the bases and have as much evidence as they're going to have right now. So I think that they're going to be looking at that manslaughter charge moving forward.
And police, they are currently looking for her. Can prosecutors use her disappearance as evidence of guilt in trial? Or is it fair to even say that she disappeared, since this incident, the baby's death, happened in February and now we are in June?
Sure. I think that comes up in the punishment phase. If the defense attorneys, we talked about it earlier, if they're bringing up that, hey, she's remorseful, she's posting online, where's she right now? There's news stories posted online posting that she's wanted. And if she hasn't been arrested yet, she knows that law enforcement is looking for her. And if she is remorseful, turn yourself in immediately. Hold yourself accountable for your actions. You did wrong. You caused the death of your son. Should have never happened. Do the right thing. And I think with her being on the run, if that is the case right now, I think it speaks to how remorseful and sad is she. I think it more speaks to she doesn't want to get caught and held accountable for her actions, is generally what you see when people go on the run instead of turning themselves in.
Well, looking at the big picture here, are there any legal protections that could have stepped in earlier, or is this kind of the case where the law reacts only after a tragedy?
It depends on what's known for the family. I just don't think much information has come out for us to speculate on that yet. But you're always looking at these cases where children are hurt. This is a circumstance where adults have to do the right thing. Those people closest to the baby, closest to this child that's hurt, have to do the right thing. We're counting on these people. And, law enforcement, CPS, other government agencies can get involved and try to be helpful if they have that information brought to them. But one, do we even know about it? Oftentimes it's going to take someone close to another family member when things are going wrong to speak up and say something. And we just don't know in this particular family what the circumstances are at home. I believe that I've seen on some of the articles online that they were staying at another house. So who are the people that they were staying with that may not have really known much of the backstory or much that was going on, or even that there were struggles. But I think it certainly is appropriate to talk about family. We got to do the right things for our children. We got to take care of them. And if you know something's not right, if you know someone is getting frustrated and they're hurting their own children, we have to stop. We can't wait on other people. We can't wait on authorities to come in. We all have the ability to do the right thing, to step up, to say something, and be a force that keeps our children safe. All of us working together.
Absolutely. And before I let you go, again, you've been doing this for a very long time. What's the chances that maybe this doesn't go to trial and that it just ends in a plea deal with all of the evidence that the prosecution may have, with maybe potentially this being the mother's first offense? What could a plea look like?
That's a possibility. Certainly something we see in all of our major cases. You never know which way they're going to go. If they need to go to trial, sometimes our pleas are very serious punishments. A plea deal is not something where someone is getting off lightly. So a plea deal is not necessarily a negative thing. It's just something where someone realizes we don't have to have a drawn out thing to try to get out from underneath us. We know we've done wrong. The evidence shows that. And here's what we're looking at. So it could absolutely be a plea. We could see this never go to trial, but we're starting to get an idea of if she is in fact on the run and hasn't turned herself in, what's her mindset going to be? Is she going to try to avoid this, escape things, not hold herself accountable? That only time will tell on that.
Absolutely. Well, this is a case that we will be following closely. Aaron, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
As of this recording, Cleamons remains at large. If you know where she is, you're urged to contact law enforcement immediately. For Law and Crime, I'm Kennedi Walker.